So I want to bring up a specific song real quick. I think it's the second to last track on the album, "End of the World." Um, I thought it was a really interesting track because it felt a little different sonically than the rest of the album. Like it felt like a little bit of a step back, and there was specifically in the intro too, where you have piano and acoustic guitar, and it kind of gets into it. And then obviously there are some heavier undertones and stuff, and how was the writing and recording of that song, and could you kind of take us behind the scenes and how that came about, and maybe even the soundscape too, with that concept of end of the world, Armageddon type stuff? Do you get into like what kind of purposes
So,
behind the way you build the soundscape to give that vibe?
From a
cool.
song point of view, we wanted to take the sort of end of the world thing, and I personally wanted to make it into more of a because it's interesting how people listen to that track and who's sort of taking it one way or the other, and that's why I think it's really good when you end up doing some writing that people aren't too sure exactly which way you mean it to go, but everybody takes it a different way, and that's cool because that means you've done a good job, so everybody can like reinterpret what you've written. But personally, I wanted to take that whole sort of Armageddon sort of statement, end of the world, and basically just mean it and strip it back to its basics, which is just you lose people, people drift out of your life, people have to go, people have to fade away, but at the end of the day you just hope that at some point you might see them again, and who knows when it's going to be or whatever happens. But it wasn't supposed to be the sort of Armageddon style meaning. It was supposed to be quite reverential, sort of a peace in yourself, knowing that this is what life's all about, and you don't have to spend the rest of your life in kind of a grief state or anything like that. You can, time will go on and you will get over these things. And from my own personal experience, losing my mum, it's like you don't have to spend every single waking moment feeling torn apart inside. You can actually breathe a sigh out and go, right, okay, I know that at some point, hopefully we might see each other again, whether we got spiritual, religious, anything like that. I'm not very religious, but I think it's really nice to actually just come to a feeling that you'd hope that at some point you might see them again at some point. And that was the meaning for me.
That's what I always got from it, that it's a very personal kind of song about somebody's own viewpoint on mortality, really. It's not, which is beautiful, it's hiding in plain sight. It's not the apocalyptic end of the world. It's kind of the end of somebody's kind of relationship with being alive, or kind of it's a much more personal kind of feel.
It's almost like, as well, from a sort of spiritual point of view, that when you can step back, when you've had enough time so that you can sort of function again and get back to living your life, that you can reassess and sort of soak in memories so much that they sort of feel like they're with you anyway. So it's all those experiences you had, all those things you remember, they become sort of with you anyway. So it's that kind of the feeling. So it wasn't actually, it was basically about twisting one of those phrases that you'd hear in a Hollywood explosion film and making it actually more emotive and more emotional.
And from production point of view, we sat down very early on, because the feel of the first chorus, the verse in the first chorus, we wanted to keep it very piano and acoustic guitar, and just so it felt very intimate, so it felt more like a kind of a symphonic kind of folk song, really.
Yes, it's a struggle, isn't it?
But then that twist, when it kind of kicks royally off, when it's got that uncle kind of vibe, we wanted it to actually feel more like a kind of like the 70s protest songs, just something that's got that beautiful kind of stacked harmonies over the riffs, so everything's playing the same riff, the orchestra, the guitars, the vocals, it's all about the riff. And then Stu, we just let him run right on it. We gave him the brief and he came back with that amazing riff. but then the very end of it as well. So it's we love that kind of shock halfway through. It's like, whoa, okay, we're going here, okay. But then at the end, it should really have gone back into the chorus and been a huge outro, but we just wanted to bring it all the way back down again and make it feel back to that idea at the beginning of the album. So it's got that broadcast kind of feel about it. So it starts very small, as if it's just literally you just dialed it in on kind of like a shortwave radio,
or you're on the phone to somebody or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it kind of expands out, and then the way we saw it visually, we do kind of write quite visually. If you've got an idea in your head, it's trying to explain that sonically. So we just saw this gigantic kind of pan back from either an apartment or somebody kind of, you know, sitting by themselves at the end of it, and just this huge pan back that goes kind of past the city and then past the state and then kind of like back out into the atmosphere. So that was that sort of like end. So yeah, so it was written from a visual point of view, but we wanted to tie in that kind of broadcast shortwave kind of idea into the end of it, which is lovely. So it just gives it a nice warm reprise at the end. But yeah, it's interesting you picked up on that one. That's really cool.
The Rock will not be starring in that video.
No.
He's very busy, but yeah, that was
That's
that
not
was
too
a really
big.
beautiful song, and
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Like
you.
that.
kind of the production and the way these things can be reinterpreted, which is I imagine as an artist a really cool thing where
I love it. Love
you know,
it.
you're going in and you know what it means to you, but to have someone else say, well, this means something to me, that's I think
Oh,
that's kind of what art is all about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so good. It's the interpretation of what you've done, and if you can, if you know, if everybody interprets it the same way, or we haven't done our job properly. And it's so important that everybody can see something different in something you've made, and I really love that. And we get loads of comments from previous tracks we've done with people going, you know, this meant so much to me for this reason and for other reasons, and it's just incredible.
Also, it depends on the listener quite a lot as well, because it's quite a curveball sometimes. You've got quite an intimate kind of darkly themed song, but it's got quite a bright, shiny kind of vibe around it. So you can kind of trick a lot of people. So you get an awful lot of people when our albums come out. We do get the initial kind of like, oh, I thought it was gonna be that, but it's that. And then they come back a few months later, like, all right, I've got it now. Yeah, now it's now. Oh, we see, right?
That's
because you're
that's
saying
a grower,
no,
isn't it? All the best songs are growers.
Well, yeah, this is it. I think.
Not saying that our songs are the best songs, but for us, I love listening to tracks and then finding something new in it every single time you listen to it.
It's like every time Radiohead bring an album out, it's like, I hope I don't really like it instantly, because it means I've got more time with it to actually get to know it and then appreciate it more. The ones that you listen to and like, yeah, great, I'll listen to it another 2 times and that'll be it. Whereas, you know, the great, really good albums, you should have a bit of a kind of a friction with to begin with, and you grow to kind of get into it. It's a bit more of a challenge then, isn't it?
Yeah, and it depends on how you feel at the time you're listening to it as well. I mean, depending what mood you're in and what place you're in, and how you conceive of what you're listening to. So that's brilliant. I love it. I love it.
It's part of the fun.
Best job in the world.
Yeah, it's part of the jigsaw. You get to kind of like hide the little messages and kind of like you can divert the attention with that noise over there, when in fact what it's really doing is kind of over there. So it's cool. We get to play with that stuff.
Having said that, I get so depressed writing songs. It's just like, just want to it's the best job in the world. Like, I'm so sad right now.
It's your job as a songwriter to be morbidly depressed while you're writing.
It's true.